Faded, the sports podcast that you didn't know you needed. Our views and opinions may be a little unconventional. The host may be a little high and maybe a little tipsy. The following opinions and views have nothing to do with the 989 Network or its affiliates. Other than that, sit back, grab a drink, roll up a fatty, and enjoy the show.
The fact that this only has like 4,000 views is a sham.
The Lion's Den. That's where we roam. This is our territory. There's no place like home. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. Detroit, stand up. Rest of y'all sit down. Lions flying when the balls kick. Yeah, football is back. It's a fall hit. Let's go. That Ford Field, we keep it real. Y'all know what's up. Y'all know the deal. Let's sing that song. Y'all know the drill. Forward down the field. Come on. We downtown Detroit. St. Brown is a D-boy. Fourth down in a decoy. Now it's first down. What it be, boy? We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D. All grit, all grit, all. I ain't become a fan, I've been a fan. Born and raised in the D, my man. Not a bandwagon, I'm a true fan. Honolulu Blue, what it do, Dan? It takes more fight, it takes more grit. Much more than the Lions roar. Sidelines, just a little bit. Motor City Dan is a good fit. D Clutch with A Hutch. Brian Branch, patrol the ranch. D Mo, what up though? Panay Gibbs, J Mo. Sam Laporta, that's a tall order. Jared Goff be going off. Motown got St. Brown. I'm in Rod, that's a first down. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit.
While we're in the chorus, is this called Gridiron Heroes?
We in the D, all grit, all
We in the D, all grit.
We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all grit. We in the D, all grit, all grit, all. One pride versus everybody. It takes more in 24. More fight, more grit. So much more than just a roar. We in the D.
Welcome back to the Smokehouse, and thanks for tuning into Crossfaded Sports. I am Buckethead Zach here with Connor the Condor and Baney with the Fanny.
Who?
And we are getting hype to this new Detroit Lions hype song made by John Legerty. He is a worker at a Ford plant who just loves the Lions and loves making music, so he made a hype song. It's got Baney in the fetal position, remembering all the years of the Lions torturing him over there. He doesn't know what to say, but we do. We know that we love this new hype song that we just had to play for you. We are coming off an insane Detroit Lions win over the Tennessee Titans, a 52-14 victory. This game was insane. Jared Goff only had 85 yards, but still threw 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery threw a touchdown. We have Jahmyr Gibbs with 127 yards. And here's a little insane fact, which, Baney, you got to get over here because I doubt you know this. Our special teams had 416 total yards. There is only 6 teams this week in the NFL that have more offensive total yards. Do you guys know which 6 teams those were?
Banny with the Fanny might know what 6 teams those were. as he's coming back to join us.
It was not the Cowboys. I know that.
Correct. So, and well, let me just add
Lions
this.
had more offensive yards than their special teams. I honestly don't
Nope.
think they did.
The Lions,
Because our special teams scored so many points and gave us so many yards. So the Lions aren't one of those teams.
well, let me add this real quick. The Lions had the fewest offensive total yards this week with 225 yards.
I did not know how low it was or the fact that we had the lowest offensive yard gains in the entire league and still scored 52 points. Isn't that fucking nuts?
Ridiculous.
All right. So the first team is Washington with 481 yards. Then San Francisco with 469. Buffalo with 445. Tampa with 432. And Pittsburgh with 426. And Green Bay with 422. Now, you guys ready for the real crazy fact? There is one team that tied us. They tied our special teams with their offensive total. Which team was that?
The Steelers had at least one punt return for a touchdown, so that's my first guess. But
No, offensive.
tied for offense, so worst
with
production.
Special teams.
No, wait. I'm
Same
sorry.
offensive yards with our special team yards. 416.
Okay, so we had a total of 416 yards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Between both.
Between special teams. Just special
Just
teams.
special
special
teams.
teams.
Full,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're asking what other team in the league had
Tied
at
us
least.
that week.
Like I said, my first guess is the Steelers because I know they had a punt return for a touchdown, so that's a huge leg up to start. But that's my only guess, I guess.
Yeah, you're still confused.
Punt return, special teams.
No.
punt return.
Another team, their offensive total yards, offense, in our compared to our special teams yards, because our special teams had 416 and our offense only had 225 yards.
I understand the both.
So
of those
what other
things.
team, what offense tied our special teams score for offensive yards?
Oh, you're asking what other team actually produced 400 plus yards as an offense,
Well,
even
the
though
same.
our special teams produced that, right? Am I verifying your question correctly?
I'm just going to give the answer because I was trying to make a joke. Tennessee had 416 offensive yards. So in the same game, we had as many special teams yards as their
I
offensive
apologize
yards.
for making that so fucking complicated, everybody. Jesus Christ. Let me just... That's pretty
That
good.
wasn't half bad. That was about a 6.
Yeah, it was, we had one.
5.5, 6.
Golly.
That was a well-needed sit for Baney over there.
Oh
He's
my
been
gosh.
struggling here.
I am really struggling. I apologize for everyone who is listening that the struggle I was maintaining that conversation, even though I thought I knew what Zach was saying over there. And I think that is also a funny little aside, like the fact that our special teams had the same amount of yards as the entire Tennessee offense is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane to see. But, I mean, Mason Rudolph throwing for 266 yards is pretty crazy.
You know, when he's been coming in relief, and, you know, I don't want to sidetrack, but I love to sidetrack. But when backup quarterbacks come in and they know that there's nothing to lose, you're throwing that ball up. Like Russell Wilson, I feel like is a good example, and especially since Mason Rudolph, you know, former Pittsburgh Steeler. When you come in, and I don't think Russell Wilson knew when he came in last week that he was going to be, you know what I mean? Like he's playing for his job.
I think he knew he had
threw
2
that
weeks.
bitch up. He just be throwing that bitch up to George Pickens. Like there's something to say with a backup quarterback like Joe Flacco, like Mason Rudolph, like Russell Wilson, who, you know, you may not call him backup quarterback, but when you just throw that bitch up with some confidence, you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. He threw for, 266 against our Detroit's defenses, where we know our secondary is not the greatest. And now without
Hutch.
exactly that
We
threat
gotta
of Hutch
expect
being
that.
there.
I'd say
Which,
our
yes, I mean, he threw for
secondary's improved.
266, threw 2 interceptions to us. So, I mean, props to the Detroit Lions, but That's the Lions secondary. I mean,
Well, and no one, because we are the Detroit Lions, but everyone is talking about how you can throw on the Ravens, but no one is talking about the Ravens, how that is a huge crippling issue. But the rest of the media and the national media is like the Detroit Lions. Oh, they can't fucking stop anybody who throws the football. And when you have the NFC North and all of these, bro, and god damn it, Caleb Williams looks all right. Jordan Love is a fucking G. Like, respect to Jordan Love. He is a straight dog. And we have to play that motherfucker 2 times a year.
well, I'll say this real quick on the whole Ravens thing. Yes, they have the number 1 scoring offense, but they seem to score quick or not at all. As we're now, I'm looking at players who are playing against that Ravens defense that is struggling so much, and I feel like opposing teams are having so much time on offense because Lamar and Derrick Henry and all of them are either scoring or not scoring, and quickly, as where that Baltimore defense is on the field a lot of the time, as we're now, and they're not doing very well. I'm picking and wanting people that are playing against this Ravens defense that is struggling.
Dude, it's not even fair either. They won't use Derrick Henry for the first 2 quarters, and the rest, even including Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and Bill Belichick, like, why aren't you giving Derrick Henry the ball? And then in overtime, Derrick Henry has a 70-yard rush because he's fresh and healthy and a man amongst boys. And I know we've said that about him in the past. Like, holy shit!
I'm gonna cut you off because we had a way better 70-yard run. Jahmyr Gibbs breaking off a 75-yard one-play touchdown was insane to see. The speed out of this guy. What are your guys? I kind of want to know what your thoughts are because
he didn't even get touched until he was in the secondary, and the safety wasn't even fast enough to catch up to him. It was all done by the offensive line. He was hella credit, and it was
he
off
hit the hole and was gone.
The offensive line. So we're going at Taylor Decker and fuck. Our left guard he's right guard. Zeitler's the right guard with Penei Sewell. It's our left guard who plays center all the time when our center's out. Ragnow's our center. Glasgow, thank you. Yes. Fuck me, dude. I feel so bad because I'm so high on Glasgow because there's this is a sidetrack for sure. I'll be quick about it, but Glasgow and a couple of our offensive linemen before we got our MCDC and our new fucking tenure, we have offense and defensive linemen that were really good players that left the team because we were bad. And Glasgow went to the Broncos and came back because he saw what we were building. And Glasgow and fucking Taylor Decker set up that run. And he wasn't even touched until he wasn't touched at all.
Probably it was insane. He hit that hole and just was gone. The speed out of him. And for me personally, going into this game, I really thought that we would just kind of not use David Montgomery. He had the knee injury the week before, and it was it was a little scary. So going into Tennessee, I would have been like, okay, this is kind of a Jahmyr Gibbs game, and it was 11 carries for 127 yards. That's a great game. And a touchdown.
I do not think, personally, this is my personal opinion, everybody, and I will throw this to you guys. I believe that there is no one in the Detroit Lions franchise that is blaming David Montgomery for his fumble the week prior and in any way, shape, or form wasn't debilitating his snaps or his touches. Like, he hasn't fumbled barely at all in his entire career, and shit happens. And I don't think anyone on the team, after talking about Anthony Richardson tapping out to take a play off to hand the football off to the running back, no one is questioning David, after a fumble. No one, at least me, I am not questioning David Montgomery's strength and ability to hold the football and be a leader for this team. If anybody, when you saw the sideline cams when David Montgomery fumbled the week prior, he was more upset than anyone else. Everyone on the team, Gibbs came over, Jared Goff came over, Taylor Decker came over.
Yeah,
everybody. That's a team right there.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing as I did last year after the San Francisco NFC Championship game with the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. That was his one and only of the season. That is probably the same for David Montgomery right there. He is
I don't
not
think
going to
he
drop
fumbled at
that
all
again.
last season. I don't think he had one fumble, or at
We'd
least
have to
not one
double
fumble
check,
loss.
but-
We'll have to double check that stat, but I don't think he had one fumble loss, and I think he's only had 5 or less fumbles in his entire career, and he's the league leader in yards after contact. Like, that's our fucking guy, and we just re-signed him. That fucking Sonic and Knuckles, I don't think we've talked about on the podcast, guys. What a better nickname for a running back duo.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, in the highlights, I love seeing the highlights with the Sonic like reins, and like David Montgomery's picking up his reins and breaking tackles, or fucking Jahmyr Gibbs is just hitting reins on the replay that they fucking picture in, and he's just speeding past everybody else. It's so cool. Sorry.
I can't wait for
I'm just
some
kinda nerdy now.
I can't wait for some high-end anime artist to pick up on their whole thing, their whole sheme, and make a sick-ass edit out of them.
Oh,
It's gonna happen.
Which, real quick, shout
San
out.
Diego
There is-
Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers schedule.
Yeah, we do need their editors.
Oh,
We do.
yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would
But
agree with
real
that.
quick, there. I don't know if you guys seen it. There was 2 fans in the end zone on the front row that had Sonic and Knuckle costumes, or the one.
Yes.
Oh, really? I did not.
I didn't see that
That's
either.
fucking
At
awesome.
this
I
game.
love that.
Because it just had come out like within the last like 14 days, where our running back coach came out and was like, just so everybody knows, I want all you reporters to know. And it was kind of funny the way he said it. I've been told that there is only one nickname acceptable for our running back duo, and that is Sonic and Knuckles. And that's what they told me. So I'm telling you so you know. And that is non-negotiable. I will take my questions now. Like, what a great start to a press conference. Like Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty are like, we're Sonic and Knuckles, and that's how you guys have to refer to us now, because we're fucking the best running back duo in the league. Like, who else is a better duo? And I'm going to throw this out there. The best duo would be Chris Johnson and Lendell White. That is the running back duo I have in my head. And the rest of the NFL, especially fantasy, there's not a duo. Like, they just can't, fantasy production wise. Lendell White and fucking Chris Johnson were ridiculous. Chris Johnson had 2,000 yards. Fucking Lendell White had like 900 yards. They both had like 40 plus touchdowns
Alvin
together
Kamara, Mark
combined.
Ingram.
Yeah, that's a good one too. And Mark Ingram. Shout out to Mark Ingram from Michigan, from Flint. Shout out to Mark Ingram.
So I got another real quick one for you boys. In 2 games now, we've gotten to see a lot of depth from Detroit in both offense and defense because of this giant leads we've had in both the Dallas and Tennessee game. What are you kind of excited looking at some of these depth pieces, or where are your questions?
I was
You
trying
point
to
me. I was literally.
Connor's over here looking at his phone, and I was like, hey, I've been talking a lot. And so I poked him in the shoulder, like, hey, talk now. And he was looking at his phone, and then he looked at me, and then he looked at Zach, and he was like, am I supposed to talk now? And I was like, that's why I poked you, so that way you could talk. And I'll talk for this entire podcast, and I'll talk over everybody, and I'm loud. And I will do it.
I'm just proving
I
my
was
point
trying.
not to talk as much this episode because Banny said he wasn't going to talk at all this episode.
I sat down in the kitchen and cried for a second. I went 2-5 this last week.
But the Detroit Lions won.
And if it wasn't for the Detroit Lions being good, like, I started fantasy football because the Detroit Lions were bad, and they ruined Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson's careers. Matthew Stafford did get his Super Bowl, but, like, you know what I mean? Like,
On that, I totally I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I used to like get into fantasy football because, it gave me something to root for on Sunday, something to go for, because you couldn't go for the Lions. As we're now, like, I'm in, 4 or 5 fantasy leagues. If I was to lose all of them but one a year, 2, 3 years ago, I would have been pissed off, all this and that. But if the Lions win on Sunday and I lose like 80% of my fantasy football leagues, I am A-okay. I am level. I'm happy. My team won. Cool.
But
Instead
if
of being
the
pissed
Lions
off
lose,
and that. Yeah, okay.
you lose
That's
all
a
your
double,
leagues.
triple negative. Don't talk to me for the week. Don't talk to me.
It's crazy the fact that we got to grow up. Like I said, and I'm talking, I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I'm talking like 2001 Joey Harrington days. I'm playing fantasy football already at 11 years old, and I know that
That's
the Lions
crazy.
are going to get their asses beat because Joey Harrington sucks, and all that type of shit. And so like I messaged my friends and like, let's go play football outside, like backyard football, because playing, watching the Lions get their ass beat is not fun. And then I come back and check my fantasy team because that's way better than watching the Lions game. But it's the exact opposite now.
Greatest feeling ever. I feel like you're on my team was two-hand touch and save a lot when we beat Tanner Kane and all of his athletic-ass friends. It was the bum squad from the birdhouse, baby, and we won that fucking game.
That was a great day. A little two-hand touch.
In the
parking
save lot,
lot,
parking lot.
football, no tackling involved. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but it's always nice to beat somebody who was a Division II football quarterback in a little backyard football. Goddamn right.
But on that note,
Buckethead Zach's got all kinds of points over here for us.
his mind is just
He's just
scrambling
soaring
like
over
Einstein.
here. He's just ready.
Well, I'm trying to decide how to get back to the question here.
Oh, we don't do questions here. We do absurd.
We do rambling.
conversations.
You guys are here talking about the Detroit of old, those same old Lions. We are not those same old Lions anymore. We are the
brand new Lions.
So I'm a little bit confused over here because we're covering a 52-14 win over the Tennessee Titans, and we're talking about those old days. So
Because we're scarred. We're scarred and hurt.
We're going to forget about the past and look for the future. And speaking of the future, what about them Titans, baby?
Well, they got murdered. We already talked about that. They're murdered. They're in the ground.
Exactly.
So with
All right.
Will Levis is rethinking his career, even though he didn't even play in the game.
I'm thinking of any player, or rethinking any of my player on that Tennessee team.
I don't know why you'd have any player on that Tennessee team, but
Jeffrey
we're just going to
Simmons.
switch this here. That's a dynasty. I guess dynasty, fair enough. All right. We're going to switch this here, though. And we're still sticking with the Lions, though. We've had a lot of talk around the Lions after this devastating Aiden Hutchinson injury. We've had a fucking blue balls teaser from Dan Campbell himself in a press conference where he was asked, and he said maybe something's cooking.
Connor, did you see Dan Campbell talking when the reporter asked him if we were going to make a move before the trade deadline for a defensive end? Did you see the video?
I don't think so.
He literally was shimmying like Shaq in that gif.
Just all happy pappy type
Oh,
deal,
yeah.
like he was
So
during
happy.
the draft when
He
they
was
got
like,
gifts.
maybe?
Like, oh, he couldn't sit down or hold himself.
Bro, he was like, we might have a big move coming, and like we need.
He was all
so
giddy.
bad,
But-
like it was just amazing.
Reminds me of Happy Feet.
He
Don't touch me. I'm too close.
And shout out to first Sheila Ford, Brad Holmes, Dan Campo for reconstructing,
Chris
and
Spielman.
Chris Spielman is really the unsung hero. But you know what I mean? Dan has said, and he said publicly multiple times, Brad is in charge. He's the GM and he is the coach, and they work together. So it's not like Dan is coming into Brad's office. It's like, we got to go get Hassan Reddick. That's not what happens. He goes into Brad's office and he's like, what DN do you think you can get a steal for? And they have a conversation. So obviously, to me, from the outside looking in, as somebody who really loves that behind the scenes stuff, I really personally, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, I really enjoy learning about the contract negotiations, the way draft picks are traded, and all that sort of thing, and like the management of the team, like the real like nuts and bolts, so to speak, of how that happens. And to have Dan Campbell just be like, hey, maybe we'll have a defensive end in here next week, and have him dancing at a public press conference. Like, I'm not saying Dan Campbell doesn't have a say, but I know that Brett, you know what I mean? We believe in Brad Holmes.
We trust
in Brad Holmes.
Like, if Brad's like, hey, Dan, we're going to get the so-and-so, then Dan's like, oh, bet. I want to coach that guy. Let's get him in here. That seems like my kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's really cool, especially outside looking in. And like I said, I'm kind of steering us a little way, but you know what I mean?
You're not too far off here, but I am gonna cut you real quick before you do get too far here, because we do have to go back to last year. We are all on record of saying that we really wanted some big move last year, whether it was Montez Sweat from the Commanders at the time.
I am very sad that we didn't get the Montez.
We didn't make a move, and we had some questions, but we're like, you know what? It was the second year, and now the third year. This is very possible, and so for me personally, I'm getting a little concerned. I will say on record, and I will be public about this, that we haven't, done something yet. And for me, Zadarius Smith from Cleveland would have been the perfect move. But I think that move should have been done last week, because now Cleveland has Jameis Winston. They won a game. They could possibly do what they did last year and somehow make the playoffs with a backup.
Into the playoffs with a backup quarterback again, because their defense is legit.
Exactly. And so now that could be completely off the table. And so I'm very concerned that we haven't seen a move. And we're seeing Kansas City already make two big trades out here with getting a defensive player and an offensive player to fill roles they need. And we have a role we need filled.
Well, and shout out to my brother-in-law, Lamone. Like, when we were talking about it, when I went to go visit the fam, he was saying because Hassan Reddick got his new deal and everything, like in the NFL, usually when you re-sign a player, you're not going to trade him after that. That's usually an NBA thing where you give the player the deal that they want and then you trade them to the team or whatever. And it doesn't really happen in the NFL before. And I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, he's right. Usually the player gets traded and then they get their deal. So, like, I still feel like Hassan Reddick is a viable option. But according to the history of the NFL, they usually don't re-sign players and then trade them away. So, like, I thought that was our number one candidate, like disgruntled player holding out until week 8. He's losing millions of dollars he's lost. That's nuts.
So, and like, we don't have to, because we all really want to see some player, and let's not lie, we want it to be Max Crosby, because that'd be two homegrown Michigan kids on both sides of the defensive end.
We could sit here and talk.
Oh my God, that would be
about Hudson,
we
Crosby.
Would come in our pants if that would happen. But we have to ask this question because the trade deadline is
November 2nd, right?
No, November 5th. Same day as the election. So we're like 7-8 days away from this. If we don't make a move, what do you guys think? What are your stances?
Well, And see, shout out to us fucking being stupid and having too much discussion before the goddamn podcast. And I was saying how we have been using Brian Branch really well in moving him around the field. And almost Bill Belichick made a quote like, the Lions are the toughest offense and they might be unstoppable. One of the best defensive coaches in the league said that as a quote. Fucking holy shit, that makes me so excited as a Lions fan. But also, we talked about, I was like, Brian Branch, we're moving around. You know, we're kind of using him like Ed Reed, like Bill Belichick alluded to. Yeah, you know, he can be on the line of scrimmage and then roam out fucking 30 yards and get an interception, or he's blitzing. If we lose Brian Branch and Hutch because we're utilizing our safeties, and Kirby and Brian Branch are our two best defensive players. DJ Reader could maybe
Before
be
you
up there.
knock on fucking wood right now.
Yeah, good point.
Like, Jesus
Gonna knock on all
Christ.
the wood.
But continue now. And then I'm going to go on my play five.
no.
If we lose Brian Branch and Aiden.
If we lose Brian Branch,
Well, yeah, now it's just Branch.
but Kirby Joseph, they are both are two of the top graded defense safeties in the league according to PFF, which is negotiable whether or not you enjoy their projections. But if we lose that one player on top of Hutch, I'm scared. And like you said, if we don't make a move,
Well, all right, hold
there's
on.
only so much
Yeah.
we can
All right,
do with
Danny.
blitzing.
My
Nope,
turn.
stop.
My turn.
You know, get
Nope,
real
fuck
quick
you.
to the question. Are you upset if they don't make a move?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I'm losing sleep if they don't make a move.
There you go. Connor.
I want to
Sorry.
make.
Sorry,
I want
thank
him to
you,
make a
Zach.
move, and I'm gonna make a 1 minute point, kind of on his, but not on his, because it's going against him. Right now, they really need to make a move because I am scared. Brian Branch was able to do all of these blitzes and these stunts because Aiden Hutchinson was always a threat on this outside, and our secondary was good because they only had to cover people for 2, 3, 4 seconds at most because Aiden was always getting in there. Now that we only have Branch, who, yes, we can stunt him all day, every day, but he's not going to get in there like he was when Aiden was healthy and getting the most sacks and most, like, you know, tackles on quarterbacks. Like, it scares me. I think we're going to lose a game or two because Aiden's out and our defense can't put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think if we, you know, if we don't need a big move, you know, it doesn't have to
No,
be the
nothing
Max
big.
Crosby, the Myles Garrett. It doesn't have to be that.
Someone who
It's-
can correlate
we
with
need a starter, though.
who can correlate
Yes.
with Branch to get Branch open and him open.
We just need,
nothing
with
special.
the emergence of Aleem McNeil and the addition of DJ Reader on the inside there, we just need something else on the outside to help James Houston. And with that, it'll be beneficial with the vast improvement to our secondary from last year to this year. You know, we still, and I don't want to have that conversation come playoff time that our secondary doesn't have, you know, they're covering the receivers for too long, you know.
Okay, and I know Connor has been very passionate about this point in particular, and I myself have been really hard on our defensive coordinator, and Terrion Arnold has been playing very physical and has gotten a lot of pass interference, and I feel like Connor has thrown a lot of shade at him when we're watching games.
I will have to question that because the last 2-3 games, I don't think he's had one called on him.
I think he definitely had one. Oh, it might have been holding, not pass interference. But, you know, either way, fucking goddamn it. I hate that I'm so bad with names. Our defensive coordinator is
Aaron Glenn.
Thank you, and I can see his fucking face in my head. But I will not forget last year on Thanksgiving, Aaron Glenn didn't do a goddamn thing, and we couldn't put any pressure on Jordan Love on Thanksgiving. I know you guys remember that Thanksgiving game. Jordan Love was standing in the pocket for like
It was the Moon's fault.
8 seconds. And then immediately the next game, Aaron Glenn is dialing up blitzes, right? Because he knew we could not sustain that without any sort of pressure in the pocket. Especially, and I think it also, I don't think it's we shouldn't be understating the fact that Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. Just respect
all around
Jordan Love. I want to hate his ass.
No, but he is a straight
dog. He's a fucking
Kind of fucking me on fantasy, but
yeah. But you know what I mean? We had immediately after that Thanksgiving game, it was the first time where Aaron Glenn is firing up blitzes. He's blitzing Kirby Joseph. He's blitzing Brian Branch. He's blitzing Ifalo Melifanu. All of our safeties, and our 3 safeties, they are all starters, and that it created the extra pressure that we needed. But Hutch was being triple teamed on every play. So now you're going to blitz other players, and now there's not a defense end that is going to take up 3 players on the offense. Your scheme has to be really good, and so far he's done well. But we need that person. We need somebody.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I mean, we got Green Bay coming up. Hopefully, as we've been talking about Jordan Love, he's questionable for the game. And we've seen this from Green Bay before where they say he's, questionable. He could play with a knee injury, and then he just obviously doesn't.
I couldn't believe that he played in week 4 after he sat out 2 weeks, because they thought he might have had a season-ending knee injury, and he just had a straightened MCL. So the fact that he even came back to play,
I don't see them playing him.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So, well, we got that matchup, and we, then we're on the road with Texans. We got some exciting games coming up for the Lions and some big games. Hopefully we got a move here.
Do you have the schedule up over there, sir?
I do.
So we've got Packers, and God, we have some really good games. So Packers and Texans are feeling the injury bug too.
But that's
our offensive line.
I hope we get them when they have their injury bug, and not everyone comes
Right.
back from it.
Well, I'm
scared of Nico Collins if he comes back.
We'll run through the next just 4 for fun. We're at Packers, at Texans, home against Jags, and then at the Colts.
Okay, so 2 hard games and 2 wins.
Yep. So we got the Packers game before the trade deadline, then the Texans after the trade deadline. And I'm really, really hoping, especially with some of the QBs we're going to be facing in the end of the season, like Josh Allen and Brock Purdy, you have to throw them on there, that we need to make a move here. And we'll see what Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell cook up here. But hopefully we get some news coming out that we can, really, really solidify that Super Bowl run.
We need to. And the worst part is, I think, as any football fan, even if you're not a Lions fan, if you don't have that pass rush in the playoffs, you can have the best offense in the league. We saw the fucking Atlanta Falcons play the Patriots and put a whooping on them in the first half, and then the Patriots fucking clamped down and won that game in overtime. You know what I mean? You gotta have a defense. It doesn't matter how crazy and amazing your offense is if you can't stop anybody. And like I said, when Jordan Love stood in the pocket on Thanksgiving Day for ever, and I'll never forget both of my uncles, my one uncle just screaming at the television, and I was right there with him about how Jordan Love had too much time. And that's an issue.
We've seen that way too much. And
you give him too much time, you'll throw a Hail Mary to win the game like Jane Daniels, 12 and a half, 13 seconds.
And to throw it back to your point, right? It's one thing to cover a receiver for 2 to 3 seconds. It's another thing to cover a receiver for 5 to 6 seconds.
Exactly. That's where the Lions struggle.
And I'll leave us on this. If I'm Brad Holmes, I'm coming in with the mindset, we're facing Patrick Mahomes. We need someone to stop him, so I'm calling Oakland, and I'm saying, do you really want to let your rivals, the Chiefs, win 3 straight? What you do is you send us Max Crosby, and we'll stop them straight.
I'll try to not talk too much, but
But
sounds like a great conversation that Brad Holmes needs to have.
Exactly. So we're all dreaming that Brad Holmes cooks something up great. But we're coming straight from the smokehouse. We are Crossfaded Sports. I am Bucket Hazak, here with Bainey the Talker and Connor the Condor. We are out.
Everybody love everybody. E-U-E.
We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows. Football.